Alright, so what's up, guys? What's up? What's up? What's up? It's me, Crimson60620. I am here doing something a little different because I am on fucking YouTube. Damn, there goes my monetization. I don't know. Now, I've done some videos. I just released a scheduled video today. And basically, it's my last day before I got to go back to work. And so I figured, why not just do some more videos? And this is like a video I couldn't get to Saturday because I was shit tired. And, you know, Sunday was my birthday. And I just wanted to get some rest and give myself a birthday present. Oh, shit. Mute that shit because they would hear that shit and try to take me down to Paradise City. But for real, guys, what's up? What's up? What's up? I kind of wanted to do a video and hold on, I'm just trying to make sure. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, that's good. And let's just put this. Nope. Definitely no opening. I'm actually gonna be doing some videos and like because I'm just a glutton for punishment. And the last time this actually happened, it worked out well. I'm gonna actually be covering another American Corgan video. Or however the fuck his name is spelled. I don't know. He's a bigoted piece of shit. So, let's talk about this son of a bitch. Because, yeah. Wokenstein. And because it's not really a big thing, I'm going to actually just let you guys watch me play Burnout Paradise. While I am, while I'm listening to this. So, let's go.
You will face a big, strong Aryan true believer who can push through pain for 1 second longer than you do. And that's all it takes.
When does it stop, Mama?
It goes on, Judah. The race is not over.
You know what actually gets me about people like this? And you know what? You know, pot calling the kettle black, and maybe he has some more ingenuity than I have because I just sit in front of a camera and play fucking video games while I talk about this. But it's just like, it's one of these things where it's just like, oh my god, I meme. Like, I am meme. And it's just like, dude, you're not clever at all. You're just some insecure son of a bitch that, that sits behind a computer screen and has already had your YouTube channel taken down because you feel that you're superior. Let's continue.
Well, when I first saw the reveal for the new co-op Wolfenstein game where players will be placed into the shoes of BJ's twin daughters, I laughed hysterically and figured that the game would be absolute garbage. And I was right.
Alright, so the first thing about this, we know that neo-Nazis and white supremacists fucking hated the new Wolfenstein because, well, you know, BJ Blazkowicz is known for killing fucking Nazis. And that's always a plus. And the fact that it, and by extension, I think it's Bethesda, who basically published it. I think it's Bethesda. Actually were openly hostile against fucking Nazis. That was part of their campaign. Because, you know, it was a bad thing to fucking hate Nazis. You know, it was a real bad thing for them to hate Nazis. But I'm getting wrecked.
In terms of actual gameplay, Youngblood is full of loot mechanics in order to encourage the purchase of in-game currency. The AI is fairly retarded. The campaign has lots of level-locked quests requiring you to grind through repetitive side content.
Now, if this was this criticism, I haven't played Youngblood. I'm not a real big Wolfenstein fan. But if that was his criticism, cool. If you want to make a argument that Youngblood was ruined by the fact that you tried to do co-op because they try to get you to play more and actually do loot and level up quests, cool. It sounds like your problem is with capitalism, dog. And that's what I don't get with a lot of these fascist neo-Nazis and fucking I guess, you know, the incels. It's like your problem is with capitalism. But let's continue.
The game's fast travel system uses a metro map that you have to physically be present at in order to use. So what happens is that you will often complete a mission only to be forced to backtrack or navigate some other weird area in order to return to your resistance hideout in the Paris catacombs. This is especially annoying when the side quests require you to go to one area of the city only to tell you that you're missing something else of importance that can only be found in another area of the city.
Again, it sounds like you have a problem with the way that the game was built to kind of encourage you to actually buy more stuff out of a game. If that is your issue with the game, cool. Cool beans. Like, again, it loses some of the things that you saw with the Wolfenstein, the New Colossus, the previous game in the series, where it is almost made into an open world game just because that's what's following the trend. It's almost as if the companies, what they do is they try to follow a trend in order to make a sure bet with money. And that ends up watering down specifically a beloved franchise. And look at me, I'm actually playing Burnout Paradise, which is an open world racing game where the original Burnout was just a fucking racing game. But people are chasing, like, they're chasing the fucking thrill. They're chasing the fucking the goddamn the money, where it's just not it, dog. But let's continue.
The story itself takes place 20 years after the events of Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, and Big Daddy Blazkowicz has ventured off without telling anyone. Not even the FBI can locate him apparently, so the task logically fell to his two bratty teen daughters. Perhaps putting Mrs. 50% of crime in charge of the FBI after liberating America from the Germans wasn't such a stellar idea.
Okay, so do I have to clarify how that is? Like, this is a reason why he lost his fucking channel. Being openly bigoted. Like, for real. Like, god damn, how fucked up is you? How stupid is you? But yeah, no. Yeah. The person who was in charge of the FBI couldn't find one person, so yeah, let's make that a critique on a certain race of people. The fuck is wrong with you, dog? What do you have? Like, what is wrong with you?
You are the head of the FBI. Isn't there anything you can do?
Listen, trust me, if there was anything any of the agencies could do, girl, you know I would be all over that shit.
Oh, but don't worry though, her daughter, Agent 0013, is a computer whiz kid who built a high-powered microphone and read a couple books on medicine.
Why do you want antibiotics?
He's got peritonitis.
Oh, and how do you know this?
Swollen abdomen, rapid breathing. His peritoneum is inflamed, which will eventually lead to sepsis and death. He needs
So, because game mechanics? Like, for real. Because game mechanics. You're fucking having an issue because game mechanics. Like, really? They need to find some way to throw this shit in. Because game mechanics.
Biotics.
The story tries to pull from elements of old movies like The Rescue, The Goonies, and The Lost Boys. Only instead of hunting vampires in some beach town, searching for lost pirate treasure, or rescuing Navy SEALs from North Korean communists, these Wokenites are hunting Roman saluters wearing Indo-European thunder god symbols because their dad didn't have the common decency to leave a note.
Alright, so, mind you, like, this is all kinds of just, what the fuck, man? What are you trying to say? You're trying to say that BJ Blazkowicz, someone who literally had a fucking mission to save the world and kill Nazis, was just irresponsible because reasons. Like, I would say that it sounds as if he may have some hatred against certain people, but I don't like stating too much of the obvious. And oh yeah, these are fucking Nazis. They're not just some poor misunderstood group that some people may just not like. These are fucking Nazis. But you probably don't see anything wrong with Nazis. Of course, we looked at your other videos, didn't we? But let's continue.
You should indulge in every moment.
The game takes the Tiny Hat's fantasy of mowing down hordes of Aryans to the next level. That's not surprising, I guess, but this time around it attempted to capitalize off the recent popularity of the Netflix series Stranger Things and insert lots and lots of 80s nostalgia, because I guess a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
Like, okay, again, it sounds like you have a problem with capitalism of one property having an issue with trying to ape another property. Like, for real, like, this is what your problem is. But yet and still, you saying you act just as bad as these woke skulls that have this issue. Like, for real, this is just like, well, you know, the game failed because it tried to be too woke. No, the game failed because they were trying to force a specific type of gameplay that did nothing, absolutely nothing to help secure a playable game, or it was trying to secure a wider audience in order to get more money versus actually playing toward their core of people where they had built up a fan base. Nobody plays Wolfenstein to do fucking co-op missions. Even the best co-op quote unquote game, God of War 4. Even the best co-op game of God of War 4. It still had it where you didn't depend on Atreus to actually work everything. You still had agency in gameplay. That's why a lot of people hate these co-op mission games. Because they're shit. Look at Dead Space. Look at Dead Space. Dead Space 3. It was shit. But you sitting up here saying, well, this is because... What's up, Vegeta? What's up, guys? I'm sorry. I'm playing a game and responding to this bullshit. So, these people, it's like, you know what the problem is, but you want to say because it's woke. But let's continue.
Now,
I'm getting something from upstairs.
There's nothing up there.
Wow. None of you knew this was here?
Hey, look at this. I didn't know Dad had all this stuff up here.
Check this out. That's Seth's handwriting.
at the outset, there's a very bizarre scene in which the Blazkowicz sisters have to kill their first Aryan true believer, and the
They are Nazis. Let's just call them. No, they're Nazis. That's a fucking problem, guys. They're Nazis. They're not just some true believer. They have literally in the game enslaved the world for decades. But let's continue.
Developers turn it into a really awkward teenage rite of passage.
Man, are you crying?
I'm not fucking crying. A little nauseous is all.
You gonna flake out on me?
Hell no.
Keine Bewegung! Hast du noch bereit?
Well, that's a fucking gruesome scene. Yeah. Wow. Talk about no body like a headshot. Or however Little Wayne says it. But let's continue.
Where, Kenneth? Losing a fight. Oh my god. Oh my god, I got his brains in my mouth. Water, give me water.
It was goofy. The fuck? Okay, it was fucking goofy. It's not meant to be some serious take. It's a satirical take on what if BJ's daughters... That sounds really bad. What if BJ Blazkowicz's daughters actually had had to take over his space? And mind you, this is people who are first generation, like, I guess first generation, like, didn't have to deal with the same shit that everybody else had to deal with that was older. It's just like the Boruto thing, but I know it. Why does it, like, for real? Why does it have to be that it's? And I said it early in the stream. It's really about the fact that they try to shoehorn in a different type of gameplay in fucking Wolfenstein. Wolfenstein is about fucking killing Nazi. Quite literally, Wolfenstein was the World War II version of Doom. That's all. That's what Wolfenstein is. As a matter of fact, the Doom Slayer is a descendant of BJ Blazkowicz. And that's what like, for real, Wolfenstein was the current day version of fucking Doom. But let's continue.
Now, I'm sorry, but did these chicks just make out, drive their dad's car off a cliff, or break their mom's favorite piece off a Greek statue? Or did they just stab a guy in his stomach with a shovel and blow his head apart with a high-caliber pistol? This set of twins might as well be a lesbian couple, seeing how one is extremely girly and the other is an over-the-top tomboy. Listening to Soph's adolescent male laugh and constant use of the word dude made me feel like a goat with a rubber band tied around his scrotum.
Why is it that anytime that a woman isn't attracted to them or isn't attractive to them, the first thing they think of, oh shit, she must not like men. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, serious. Like, if you women aren't here to be your playthings exclusively. Now, if they are volunteering to be your playthings, that's fine. I can be their playthings too, and we can play things all together. Yum. But, dude, the first thing you jump to is a woman that's not super girly is, oh, she must be mannish. That's your threat that, well, she's more mannish than I am, so my feelings hurt. Like, that's what it is. It's like, it's this whole thing of, well, you know, I can't be that manly, and she's being more manly than me, so, oh, no. Just like when he said, this motherfucker actually said women don't like multiplayer games because reasons. Let's continue.
I'm so much fun.
What? It's a
I know.
Shut up.
And of course, there's a Soviet communist in the resistance movement because we all know how morally superior they were.
You went hunting with Dad.
The fuck is, like, really, dog? Yeah, of course. They fought Nazis. Anybody that was more superior, anybody that fought Nazis were more superior, dude. That's how that worked.
What did you talk about?
Ain't telling, Soph. Why don't you go hunting with him yourself sometime?
I only hunt Nazis, Jess, not animals.
I guess Machine Games couldn't be bothered with considering the irony that Adolf Hitler himself was a vegetarian and that the Germans in the night.
Okay, he still did some horrible shit, like kill 6 million particular race of people. Not to mention the gypsies, the other people that he actually helped fucking design the final solution for. He wasn't some big. Oh, he was a vegetarian. He was a vegetarian because he didn't like the cruelty that happens with animals. Humans, he didn't give a fuck.
1930s were pioneers in animal protection laws. In fact, one of the first things the National Socialists did upon gaining power was to outlaw vivisection and kosher animal slaughter.
That wasn't because they were all so. They didn't do that shit because they were so concerned about the animals. No, they wanted to actually perform a genocide as defined by the Human Rights Commissions, where they were saying, oh, this is important to a Jewish, Orthodox Jewish position and a practice of their faith. Oh, we just get rid of it. We're gonna fucking, you know, how do I put it? Outlaw something that they consider the practice of their faith. That's what it was. But let's continue. No, he can't, because he needs to find a reason, a way of saying that this is bad because wokeness. Never mind. And I will actually give this man the fucking credit that it was a fucked up game because of what they try to add to it that took away from a lot of it. But no, he has to. No, he was a vegetarian because he was extremely. Hitler was extremely squeamish. He was, and he had a micro penis that didn't really work that well.
Prohibited the boiling of lobsters and crabs, banned commercial animal trapping, and imposed severe restrictions on hunting. Not only did Machine Games ignore all of this, but they went so far as to have the Germans strap bombs to dogs and train them to rush the enemy. Well, here are some other things that Machine Games will likely never mention. Ethnic German minorities were being persecuted and killed in various European countries prior to World War II.
Wait. No. Fuck, no. Citation needed, motherfucker. Citation needed. I studied some of the history of World War II, and no ethnic Germans were actually doing that. As a matter of fact, what did happen, if you want to actually say during the time after the World War started, where certain resistance and freedom fighters were killing Nazis, yes, people were killing Nazis. But let's continue.
The Allies firebombed several German cities and literally burnt thousands of little German children alive.
Wait, what? What? Wait, what? Oh, wait. Alright, so for people who don't know what actually happened during that time frame, how the Allies actually did specifically start bombing a lot of German cities, I'm going to tell you what happened. It was this little thing called the Battle of fucking London, where mostly probably by mistake, the Germans accidentally bombed London because they thought they were bombing a factory. And when they saw how effective it was, they was like, "Oh shit, let's start bombing civilian towns." Now, was Hitler trying to take over England versus having just Fortress Europe? Exactly. But what happened in that sense, was the Allies wanted revenge, so they started doing the same thing. It was just as with Germany. With Germany and Russia. Russia wanted revenge because Hitler started actually bombing a lot of and destroying a lot of the Russian towns. So they was like, okay, you want to kill our civilians? We can play that game. And that's what happened. But let's continue.
Unless you was actually there, you can't possibly. If I tell you, your brain won't accept it. I mean,
and it's affected you.
You never saw. There was no sign of any children because the children melt. Their bones were too tender, and they just melted. And if you got in, and nearer you got to the.
Okay. Great emotional throw. Let's throw some Holocaust survivors. Let's do that. Let's actually talk about. Oh, this is a great way for me to segue. If you saw, there was a video where Bernie Sanders is actually talking about how he grew up in a neighborhood in the Bronx where people still had the tattoos on their arm from the concentration camps. I mean, like, I know he's old, and my thing is, so what is he old? But he literally had to. They had conversations about how there are people that still had the tattoos from the concentration camps. But let's continue.
The centre of the city, then you didn't even see skeleton. It was all a sort of a jelly with odd bits floating about, not floating because.
And this has stayed with you, hasn't it?
This
has stayed with you throughout the whole of your life.
Well, yeah. You don't witness women and children flying through the air alive, being dragged into these vortex because of the power of the wind.
And after the war, millions of Germans were rounded up, put into concentration camps, and systematically starved to death. But normally...
Wait, what? The Allies specifically said, we're not going to do this time. They specifically says, we don't want to cause another fucking world war, so let's not do the same shit that that fostered the Second World War. Because if people remember, when you go back to one of the things that Hitler capitalized on is the fact that the Germans had to pay restorations for the First World War, which they didn't cause. They supported the people that did cause it. But that's one of the things. And it was like, no, that's why we have a United Nations instead of the League of Nations. Because they were saying, not another fucking war like we did here. But let's continue.
No one talks about this stuff because doing so might require sympathizing with, or God forbid even thinking of the Germans as real, three-dimensional, flesh-and-blood human beings, and not irrational avatars of evil meant to incite the modern political left to violence.
I feel unstoppable.
Okay, so this is a point... Yeah, exactly. But this is a point where I actually kind of agree. When you demonize people, when you actually say that, oh, they're super bad and there's no humanity in it, I can somewhat agree with that because here's the thing. This is the same thing that I say about incels or fucking conservatives there are people that go along with a certain agenda because they're looking for safety. They're looking for a way of, somebody says, I have the solution to your problems, and they don't want to think, because dealing with shit is hard. They already are struggling with work. They're already struggling with family life. They're already struggling in some cases with dealing with a family member with addiction. So yes, I fucking understand that some people that just want to have, they want a problem fixed without having to do the issue. But here's the thing. That's everybody. Everybody is going through that. Everybody is. But you can sign your choice away to people that are actively saying, hey, this person is bad, so why don't we kill him? No, you don't fucking do that. Because people, no matter how much you disagree with them, are deserving to be able to be reasoned with. And the ones that don't want to reason with you, then we can have a conversation of seeing what we can actually do to influence them or separate them from society. Exactly. So, and a lot of them just was like, well, I don't want to be part of the out group, because the out group are actually like, it was a reason why you saw that poem from that Presbyterian preacher. It was, they came for these particular people, I didn't say anything. They came for these particular people, I didn't say anything. And then they came for me. That's what's happening. It's an erosion of, well, that's the out group, that's the out group, and then it turns down to, I'm part of the out group.
So, like I could take down Sarah Jane from school.
Sarah Jane stole your lunch money, Jess. Doesn't make her a Nazi.
Yeah, close enough.
Well,
and yeah, if you want to make fun of the fucking woke skulls, the people that's just like, well, they want to lump one person or one type of people with everybody they hate, I'm good with that. But, dude, you're being disingenuous. You're literally being a bad actor.
Overton's window doesn't mean shit unless it comes with some enforcement. So yeah, this is enforcement.
Now, in case you're not familiar with the previous two games, the cause of the extremely advanced technology isn't due to German ingenuity. Oh no, those silly goyim and their small brains could never be responsible for a moon base. Nope. You see, those deceitful Germans stole all their technology from an ancient mystical order of kosher scientists called the Da'at-Ishud. Now, I've complained about this previously, but I'm gonna do it again because it's extremely irritating.
Oh no! Wow. It's almost as if a people's, and I know what I'm saying, a group of people that are accused of not being able to do anything because they're seen as too primitive. I wonder where I've heard that before. Oh wait, pyramids. Oh wait, different cities in Africa's or the New World. Oh wait, different places in fucking Asia. Oh, because when it happens to indigenous people across the world, then it's a fucking problem. But when it happens to, I don't know, different, as he says it, Aryan people, well then no, they're not getting the credit that they deserve. Fuck out of here.
That Machine Games just had to deprive the Germans of any credit of having made significant technological advancements in the 1930s and 40s. Hell, even after the war, the Russians and Americans immediately went to work smuggling German scientists out of the country to use them in their expertise for the space race. But I suppose if we admit any of this, then it would follow, reasonably so, that there is something unique and special about Germans worthy of preservation.
Oh, you know what? Here's the thing. I will say this. The Germans did have some fucking great scientists. You know what another great scientist was that was German that unfortunately had to leave the fucking country that the U.S. also snatched up? For some reason, he had this theory about relatives and gravity. Oh yeah, Einstein, Oppenheimer, all of these people who actually had to leave Germany because the tensions that the Nazis was actually creating that fucking helped different scientific studies. And yeah, of course, it's fictional history.
And perhaps we ought to stop enforcing a de facto extension of Theodor Kaufmann's plan to genocide them through mass immigration, Kollektivschuld, and miscegenation.
Okay, so this bullshit right here is the fucking reason why this motherfucker got kicked off of YouTube. And I'm gonna say this. There is only one motherfucking human race. We're only one human fucking species that's the dominant over this motherfucking planet. Because we can have sex and reproduce viable reproducing offspring, we're the same species, we're the same race. We may have nominal differences when it comes to skin tone, but other than that, we're pretty much the motherfucking same. As a matter of fact, there is more genetic closeness for people who didn't go sub-Saharan Africa than there are in sub-Saharan Africans. Like, for real, like the genetic diversity, sub-Saharan Africans are more diverse than the people that fucking left Africa and went spread across the globe. I don't fucking get it. Like, no one is trying to replace a specific people, a specific culture. As a matter of fact, this is the shit that pisses me off about people who are so worried about the immigrants coming from different parts of the country. When they get here, the next generation considers themselves American or European, and they start doing European shit. They literally say, I'm a European, let me be this. I'm an American, let me be this. And then that culture that you were so scared that was going to take over yours, actually yours incorporates them. And then they start actually believing that they're American because... Exactly. And they start believing they're American or their adopted country so much that they're willing to fucking defend that country against people that will try to fucking hurt it. God damn, most of us have more in common with people that are literally crossing hundreds of miles to make a better life for their families than the motherfuckers that tell us to fight amongst each other. But, you know, let's continue, right?
So this is where the fancy Nazi Gestapo in Paris live, huh?
Everything's in German. It's like they just totally erased everything that was here before.
The story's climax...
Why did he just have to throw that shit up? Like, for real. Why?
Reveals that the leaders of your Paris resistance cell are actually German spies who had rebelled against a disillusioned Berlin and wanted to implement a Fourth Reich because reasons. And
well, not like they're Nazis, you know. It's almost as if it's part of the fucking game. First, you talk about how that they're making up history now because they're not following history or something that could even be conceived, then it's a fucking problem. Let's continue.
Upon discovering BJ in a secret .E Schud vault, he explains that after having assassinated Hitler, he had inadvertently activated a failsafe protocol and a doomsday device that, upon Hitler's death, would alter global weather patterns and destroy the world. Yes, that's right, boys and girls. Machine Games successfully figured out a way to ham-fist in climate change and to blame it all on white identity politics.
No, by your own description, you literally just said what fucking happened. It was literally because, hear with me now, going by your words, a megalomaniac says, I'm not going down without a fight. Or if I'm going down, I'm taking the world with me. So he engineered a failsafe. Now, if you want to say that the motherfucker stole that idea from Spawn, cool, I'm all with you. Because that's a definitely Spawn fucking level of idea. I mean, like, yeah. But the fact that it's not identity politics, it was a sick bastard that was mad because the world is, he can't rule the world. But, you know, reasons. Words don't mean anything, right?
What's funny about this whole scorched earth / doomsday policy of Hitler is that a particular ethno-state in the Middle East today has something quite similar called the Samson option, in which there will be massive nuclear retaliation against everyone if their country is destroyed or significantly threatened.
Whoa! The fuck? Yeah, he is reaching hard because I remember during the Cold War, there was a policy called MAD, Mutual Assured Destruction. That's kind of what kept the world safe. Because, you know, when the U.S. actually started talking about different shit, Russia was like, no, the fuck you won't. And the U.S. was like, yes, the fuck we will. And then when it flipped the other way around, your problem is the same shit that the U.S. and the Russia were doing to each other. The fuck? This is why. This is why. You're an idiot.
But go on, Machine Games. Do tell us more about the mental projections of our greatest fucking ally.
Oh my god. I was saving that and like for real. So here's the thing. This is the reason why. Oh god, no. Fuck no. I can only stand his stupid for so long. But this is the reason why this idiot got kicked off of YouTube. Like literally, keep making videos like this. This is the reason why he got kicked off of YouTube. Because he's just so caught up in this whole of course I'm right type mentality that it's just like I don't think he has an idea that, you know, maybe I'm fucked up. Exactly, Vegeta. Like for real. Like I don't get it. And this is the same fool that sit back and that talked about Doom. I don't think he understands that it, with all of their games, loves to just take the piss out of shit. Like they love to actually just piss off these just insecure ass motherfuckers. And like I don't think he gets that shit. That's its bread and butter to piss off these motherfuckers. But no, he thinks, well, they're trying to erase Western culture. Nobody wants to fucking erase Western culture. Nobody fucking wants to make your pee-pee soft because you don't feel like a big man. God, like for real, like I think like a lot of these cats are just fucking losers. Exactly. let's go to another video. Like I'm warmed up. I'm warmed up based off of this shit. But let's go to another video. Come on. Let's go. All right, let's talk about another loser. Oh God, I need to clean this shit up. Ooh, let's go to Destiny.
Hey, I just created.
Come on, no. Don't do that. All right, come on, let's do this. I know. It is a fucking video game. And these motherfuckers, like motherfuckers like him, just I guess it's just like they need to have something in their lives where they feel like, no, I'm right and I need to feel good about myself by making others look stupid. Like, that's what they need in their life. It is something that, it's the one thing that can make them feel like a man. And it's just like, you fucking idiot. Okay, how do I get that one? That's going to be difficult. But let's go to... But you know what? They have made video games like that. And that's the thing. It hasn't... Like, look at not Fallout. Look at Far Cry 3. They literally made Far Cry 3 where a lot of those people in that game were brown people. So, it's just one of those things. Like, is it really that serious? But let's go to a Destiny video. God.
Bloomberg experiment is super interesting because it's really interesting because you typically have to win like New Hampshire or Iowa to be considered like a serious contender. I think it's generally how it works in the Democratic Party. Although a lot of the rules are changing, especially post-Trump. But Bloomberg is like, fuck all that. I don't give a fuck about any of that. I don't care about the first 4 primaries. I'm focusing on 2.
All right, so let's talk about Destiny. Stephen Burrell. Destiny, as they like to call him. Well, here's the thing. He is so wrapped up in him needing to be right about shit that he gets upset when people call him out. He's one of those guys who has to say, well, of course I'm right because reasons. And if you disagree with me, you're just not a thinker. And, you know, he did actually address some of the things that happened with his, when it came to attacking right-wing pundits, like the bigots and racists that you will see, no bullshit, Sargon of Akkad. Like, yeah, he fucking took them down because their arguments were weak, stupid, and it didn't take much effort to take these motherfuckers down. But whenever it came to like left-leaning people who literally have ideas of how to make the world a fucking better place for more than just one person or a handful of people, then his feelings got hurt. Like, literally, the interview that he had with Non-Compete, American Johnson, and the interview he had with Peter Kaufman, it was painful. And then, of course, he's going to mention a couple of people in this video, and it's going to be fucking awesome, especially his distaste for them and how he feels that they're just mean old people. But let's continue.
Super Tuesday, which is really interesting. June will never debate me because June will never debate me because she knows she can as well. It's kind of frustrating that like a lot of these people have now kind of like set up. So my frustration lately, my big frustration lately is that I kind of had like Twitch as a platform to kind of like make fun of like crazy conservatives and conspiracy theorists for a long time, and that's kind of what I did. And like politics on Twitch was more or less spearheaded by me, and then there might have been a couple of really small people. But up until about like 2019, like more or less I was like the only person on this platform.
So you actually hear this? You actually hear this shit? Well, what happened was I was actually the first one to talk about politics on Twitch, and now so many people are actually doing it, and this is my problem. Come on.
Form that did, you know, kind of like politics, and that like as crazy as YouTube got, or as crazy as whatever, like at least on Twitch, like I kind of like had this area to kind of like make fun of these people. I guess the reason why the focus on the lefties so much as of late is that now it feels like the majority of politics on Twitch is like, again, batshit insane conspiracy theorists, like it used to be on YouTube, and most of them are too scared to talk to me. Just like,
wait, what? We know Vosh has been literally started, like, is trying to have you come down there to LA and have that conversation. This bluster don't mean shit. And I get it. Okay, so if you don't know about Destiny, how... Exactly. His ego is harmed. If you don't know about Destiny, he was a top e-gamer. I think League was his thing. And it was just like, yes, most of the reasons why he was so instrumental in taking down a lot of the right-wing nut jobs, as he puts it, is because it was an ego thing. And necessarily, and he says he was a little bit more right-leaning than he is now. But it's not about, well, I see your argument is sound, but I just hear it's just like your argument is stupid. But let's continue.
It's like the conservatives were, because they know that they don't have any real arguments. It's a pretty frustrating spot to be put in, but I mean, I guess I don't know, maybe you could argue it was like inevitable. It's your fault you platform most of them. Yeah, I guess I always kind of like undercount like how sensational like conspiracy theory and shit can be versus like, oh well, let's find out like what's actually happening. Like my brand of politics, like all in all, is actually so much more boring than what somebody who wants to sell you conspiracy theories and snake oil can, right? Like it's so much more exciting to talk about how everybody's rigging everything against you, and how everybody's like out to get you, and everybody's working against you, and the CIA has moles in your campaign, and the NSA is spying on your camp, blah blah blah. Like that's so much more exciting than like, well, let's look at the facts and see what's up.
All right, so yeah, of course, you actually do have it where some people are making just outright conspiracies. Duh. Welcome to the fucking internet. But we actually have evidence of what's going on. Exactly. We actually had evidence of what happened in fucking Iowa. We know what happened. The head of the Iowa Democratic Party fucking resigned because he know he fucked up. And yeah, his thing is he always has to be correct.
Do you think they're legitimate grifters? I don't think they're grifting. I'm sure these are their legitimate political views. Their legitimate political views are just oftentimes very naive and stupid. And then like...
Naive and stupid because I disagree with them. Like, listen to him. Like, if you actually listen to Vosh actually talk about this fool, about how he switches point to point, and he actually says, well, lefties, they don't have any evidence to point towards the fact that socialism or democratic socialism is actually good because it's never worked before. Fucking capitalism hasn't worked before. It's not working now. It's been staying on life support because of certain shit, but that's here nor there. Let's continue.
The conservatives on YouTube,
Steven?
they found that like the easiest way to kind of like deal with it is to not talk to somebody like me who can call them out on it. So they just hide behind their excuses to not talk about me. Oh, he uses debate tactics or blah blah. It's all the same shit that all the centrists said on YouTube. And then they can just kind of like preach to their audience about how conspiratorial everything is without having.
I'm thinking about speeding him up,
of course,
because he does that Ben Shapiro thing where he actually talks really fast with a group of words, but there are long fucking pauses in between. And so what he's doing is actually taking the time to form out his sentences and then just replay them like that, so it seems like he's talking fast. I can do that too, because in the end, it all talks about a different specific skill that you can actually have. I mean, it's not a big thing, especially if you've done stuff like working in a call center and you actually have to come up with a sense of things quickly and fast, and you're given a specific time to actually talk and stop and then talk some more. It's fucking easy. But let's continue.
I don't think Shrew is grifting. She'll blindly signal whatever the majority. She was just stupid. She's just a reactionary dipshit, like kid that likes to talk about politics but doesn't know anything about it. Have you considered making long form hit pieces on the lefty streamers? Well, the thing is that like if somebody's not interested in actually having a conversation to me, like being a reply guy on
Real and
videos
true.
is just really annoying. Like I'd rather like have a real conversation and show people how fucking dumb you are, not like do reply guy shit on videos over and over again.
My man looking.
Because it will require for you to motherfucking come up with a point and pull your fucking evidence up. And that's not what it is. You get your rocks off on saying, ha ha, this person's stupid. Ha ha, I'm better than them. Ha ha, I'm smarter than them. That's what Destiny actually likes to do. That's the reason why he does it. He is literally saying, whoa, you know, it's fun to take down conservatives, but with, you know, liberals, I may have to do some work and actually have to understand their points versus just being bored with it. Literally, that's some of the things that he actually says. Well, I was bored with actually looking into what you're saying. Fuck out of here.
Clean as fuck.
It feels closer to grifting when they're willing to discard politics in order to make fun of Pete for being gay. Well, that's not like
exactly
grifting. That's more just
Monk
like they
HMO.
never had like real political foundations to begin with. Like it's always been like about like, well, maybe you would consider that grifting, I guess, or not you. I don't mean that like an insult. Maybe that would be considered grifting. I don't know. But yeah, like it feels like a lot of their what to quote the famous their axioms are ungrounded. But yeah, like maybe that people have never really thought about this stuff as much as they claim to have. Doesn't it feel good convincing people they are hacks, though? Well, not really now when my entire platform has been overrun with political hacks. It doesn't feel good.
Again, this is about his ego. My platform has been overrun by political hacks. Like, for real, dog? For real. This isn't your platform. Twitch isn't your platform. It's akin to, well, I was here first, so it's mine. That's literally what he's saying. I was here first, so it's mine. The fuck is wrong with you, man? Let's continue.
Good anymore. No, it feels like pretty fucking bad. Like it feels pretty gross.
If it makes you feel better, you pulled me out of the crazy part of the left. Thanks, BB.
And see, things like this absolutely feed his ego. Well, rational people, well, people that aren't ideologues, well, people that want to really get stuff done, they see it this way. It's like this whole thing, this appeal to centrism and this appeal to gradualism, it fucking doesn't work. No movement has succeeded from gradualism. The women's suffrage movement, it wasn't gradualism. They came out there in full force and they were told, why the fuck are you trying to vote when you can't? Why are you advocating for voting when you can't vote? Why are you doing this? Why are you trying? It doesn't work because it doesn't work right away. Wait for it. Hold off. Maybe in 20 years. Look at the civil rights movement. Wait for it. Give it some time. It's going to take time. Look at the gay rights movement. In 2004, literally, they passed a fucking Defense of Marriage Act. And in less than 10 years, because people didn't want to wait, they moved the country to where it was like, no, fuck, it's a human right. Gradualism never fucking works. It takes a full frontal assault. It takes people willing to stand up and say, no, we want that shit now. It's my rights and I need it now. If you get that J.J. Wentworth joke. But let's continue.
No problem, buddy. Bad Bunny is probably a grifter. I don't think she legitimately believes in anything that she says politically. Bad Bunny is just a lonely person who will do anything for a group of friends that will accept her. So if her group of friends...
Almost as if somebody would do anything for a group of people that, like, literally, does he not just realize that he's feeding his own ego by... Somebody just told him, like, oh, you brought me out of the worst things out of the left. That's literally feeding his ego, and I don't think he actually gets that he's doing this shit for ego. He is literally doing this shit for ego. But let's continue.
Friends were to transition over to Nazi conspiracy theories or flat Earth or whatever, she would be right there behind him. I mean, I don't necessarily blame her.
Exactly.
Just wants a group of friends.
Exactly, Vegeta.
She's been pretty lonely for like the past like 5 or 10 years or whatever, so it makes sense. Her motivations are at least somewhat understandable. Do you have any ideas on how to bring Twitch Sphere back to a normal spot if they all avoid you and they don't want to do... well, I mean, I don't think you can. I think that once conspiracy theories have kind of like taken hold...
What's the best way to combat these people on the platform? NGL, it seems like you're calling to destroy their egos.
I think that once people have...
Yes, because it is a battle of egos. Just like the guy said, it's a battle of the egos. His versus everyone else.
Like, started to do the conspiracy thing, it's really addicting. Like, it's so much more fun. Like, it's so fun to think, like, well, Pete's campaign, you know, they...
Alright, come on. Fuck Purple.
They also bought services from Shadow. And Pete's...
I mean, like, if you want to be honest, he actually did. He bought services from Shadow. Like, I'm going to give you 40 grand to do something. Like, really? Really? Like, really? Oh, we're going to give you 25 grand for text messaging.
Advisor's wife is friends or owns the organization that owns Shadow, so they are all rigged. Like, that's fun stuff to think about. It's just...
Wait. One of his advisors is on the board that owns Shadow, but there is no collusion. Destiny, you can't be that stupid. Oh, honey, what did you do today? I created an app for the people that gave me money that you're affiliated with. Oh, really? Do you think that has any effect on what somebody may actually fucking do? You can't be that naive. You can't be that motherfucking naive. You can't. I'm sorry, like, to say like, oh, it has no bearing. The fuck it doesn't. But let's continue.
It's like the Pizzagate or QAnon stuff. Like, it's fun to run down those rabbit holes.
It's not a fucking rabbit hole. We have a clear, distinct connection. It wasn't as if somebody was saying the owner's wife was in the fucking basement, the non-existent basement of Pizzagate, and says, "Ooh, look at our basement." Let's continue.
And to find their campaign slogan had 17 words, and if we break down 1 + 7, we see that 1 represents Hillary Clinton and 7 represents her 7th term as the senator of New York, which we see stand like that's all like that's super fun. Like, that's so much fun to do. Like, it's so fun to get involved in all of that. That, like, why would you go back to like, well, okay, whatever, maybe there's more reasonable explanations. Like, nah, I don't think people care to do it.
And you know what? This is my thing with him. It's his whole thing is, well, people are stupid and they don't want to think and all this other good bullshit. Like literally, he's his thing for not having worker co-ops is because, well, people don't want to think, and I don't want, and not I, but people don't want to try to make decisions for themselves. Like, that's his problem, this fucking ego of everybody else is stupid but me. Let's continue.
I feel like Destiny's exaggerating. You're just as stupid as like everyone else though. Like I've already seen the dumb shit that you're typing in chat.
Example, exactly what I was just motherfucking saying. You're just as stupid as everybody else. Really, dog? Really? The fuck is wrong? It must be nice to have an ego that big. I know when it crashes, it must be fucking horrible. It must be just outright just... It must be world-shakingly devastating to actually have an ego where it's that big but also that fucking delicate. That somebody in this chat can set him off that quickly. But let's continue.
What did you just say? I just saw you say something stupid. Pete donated $40K to Shadow Inc. Something was going on. Pete didn't donate $40,000 to Shadow Inc. Pete bought services from the company. Like, you're already wrong. You're already starting off on a conspiratorial foot.
Oh, wait. The company that was responsible for creating the app for a primary that he actually was in and had stakes in wasn't influenced by his quote-unquote purchase of a service. Fuck out of here.
So you already don't know what you're talking about. So no, I wouldn't waste my time talking to you. No, like you're already lost. Like you're already down the conspiratorial. Unless you think I donate money to OVH or I donate money to Amazon when I buy a service. Like you're already down the conspiratorial rabbit hole. Nothing I say will ever like convince you otherwise.
Wait.
You need some political commentators that you endorse or at least respect. Sam Cedar, man, he's trying his hardest not to go fucking crazy. I don't know if he...
Wait. Did he just throw up Sam Cedar? I tell you one thing. I tell you one thing, Destiny. Sam Cedar is not the reasonable liberal that you think he is. But let's let this shit continue.
How much he cares about the other crazies that he has on his platform or not, but Sam Cedar is trying his hardest. Everything I've seen of him, it seems like he's trying really hard to be responsible in his messaging. And then obviously David Pakman. I don't know anybody else that I...
Now, mind you, he just named David Pakman, who, in some rights, is a little bit more progressive. He's maybe a little bit more centrist as well. He's a pragmatist. He wants to do practical shit. But in the fucking end, you have to understand something. One, especially with Sam Cedar, it is a fucking reason why he's the ringmaster of his circus. Now, if you ever listen to... No, actually, he's not. He's purposely being a dumbass. I will give you that. But what he does is he puts Michael Brooks on his show. And he lets Michael Brooks run fucking ragged and rimshot over everything. So he can get back and say, well, I didn't do it. Michael said this and Michael did this. Oh, what was it? It was a thing where he actually forced Michael to take down a video and he forced Michael to apologize. And he had a real strong talking to Michael where he docked him a week's pay. Like, dude, I get it. You're fucking being facetious. And not only does he have Michael Brooks on, but he also has Jamie, and I forget her last name, who is literally an anarchist. Makes no bones about it. And says it specifically that she believes in anarcho-syndicalism. But he never admonishes these people. He lets the circus run wild. I wonder why.
I respect right now. Definitely not Michael Brooks. Absolutely not.
Now, mind you, he doesn't respect Michael Brooks because Michael Brooks saw through his bullshit. Michael Brooks literally had a conversation with him where Michael Brooks ran roughshod over his stupid ass arguments. They had one conversation, and Michael Brooks made him look like a fucking fool. That's why he hates Sargon, because Sargon made him look like a motherfucking fool. It's not that he had a problem with his arguments. It's not that he had a problem with what he was actually saying. It was they hurt Destiny's feelings, and now he doesn't fucking like them.
Definitely not Kyle Kalinske. That dude is just as bad as Alex Jones.
Now, I've never seen Kyle Kalinske, Secular Talk, say they're turning the frogs gay. I've never seen Kyle Kalinske rip out his shirt like he's some hopped up on steroids motherfucking pink ass ape. No! Is he forceful? Yes. Is he, bombastic? Yes. It's almost as if Destiny hates people that will push back on his bullshit and just not take it. This is the reason why he doesn't like Vosh. Because Vosh will push back on his bullshit. That's what happens. And he fucking hates it. He fucking hates it. Because it's about his ego. And if you hurt his ego, then he's going to be mad. He's going to be really, really mad. But let's continue.
They're literally on the same tier. I don't.
Oh, by the way, Kyle Kalinske started a political party that has actually gotten people in office to help support, socialist issues. Say, like, help co-found the Justice Democrats, which helped bring us Representative Ocasio-Cortez. Somebody who's pushing the needle to actually help us with climate change issues and address certain things that are affecting everyone. But, yeah, he does. He just does, because it's more rational to Destiny that they're just idiots and he's right because his ego. But let's continue. Where's this motherfucker?
I don't know who else. Oh, Hutch. Fuck, man, that Hutch dude. He's not like a mainstream political person. But yeah, like Hutch is trying his best. Yeah. ContraPoints is okay, but she doesn't do as much, obviously. I don't even know if I would consider her necessarily political. She doesn't really comment on mainstream political things. It's more like, I don't know if I'd say sociological. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Wait, what? Wait, what? ContraPoints? The fuck? Like, am I really hearing this? Now, I watch ContraPoints videos. Shit, I just watched one today. Her big thing is gender identity, being an advocate for people being able to identify in the way that they want. But she is definitely had some tanky motherfucking calls and points about shit. Right now, you don't see that shit because something that is very important to her is more in the forefront. But make note, like, the fuck? Yeah. Like, for real. Like, Destiny literally has no context of actually, well, I don't like this point, And the points that he doesn't like is because they directly may take something away from him. But let's continue. What little square? Oh, it's my camera. It's my mic. Alright, let's continue.
Sure, what I would. Bastia is okay. I don't know. He probably leans a little bit farther to the right than I do, but Nate Silver. Maybe Nate Silver. Nate Silver seems like he really fucking hates Bernie Bros.
So, and Nate Silver was actually instrumental in helping predict the 2008 elections. But Nate Silver has, let's just say, came to a conclusion with a lot of, ooh, god damn, he's swinging that ass. He was seen as an outsider. But when Nate Silver became part of the political establishment, he really fucking hated Bernie Sanders. Damn, his ass is almost down already. I love these new thralls. But let's continue.
But then again, he gets harassed by them a lot on Twitter too, so I don't blame him. We might be similar in that regard. He might be the only guy more ass-pained online about Bernie Bros than I am. Eva seems okay, but I think that they let people get away with too much. You're talking with Mike from PA today? Yeah. Well, I hope so. Supposedly, he starts to stream in about 5 minutes. He's challenged me in the past. Yeah, fuck it. I'll talk to him. I'm ready to do the...
And see, it's about who he can call out, who he can specifically make sure that he's better than. Like, for real, dog, is that why you have one particular political leaning or did something political in a specific case? Yeah, the fucking DNC, literally, Chris Matthews said, if Bernie would have won, I may have been dragged out to Central Park. Like, for real, dog? Like, you ain't that important. Oh, shit. Yeah, if I take more of those, my ass is grass. Or Chuck Todd talking about digital brown shirts, but Bernie Sanders, his supporters, are being motherfucking irrational. Digital brown shirts. Like, literally, he called Bernie Sanders supporters digital brown shirts. It's like, you see these motherfuckers get at progressives, they put you in the face. And the moment you say, hey, that's bad, you shouldn't be, or you defended yourself. Oh, look at you being fucking unreasonable. Look at these people. They don't like us punching them in the fucking face. But let's continue.
We'll dive down the conspiracy theory memes about this Iowa shit if he wants to. Don't you think that momentarily killing your views with League is letting all these bad political commenters grow on Twitch? Well, kind of, but like, I don't want to do politics like 12 hours a day. Like, this is not fun for me. I don't.
The reason why he doesn't do politics because he know he can't stack up against left wing people. He knows he can't. He knows that left wing people would actually pull out facts. Well, what about this? What about Venezuela? Fuck. Here's the thing. And people don't, this is the shittiest part that a lot of people don't get, and this is off on a little bit of a tangent. When you look at Bernie Sanders' plan, and to an extent, Elizabeth Warren's, they want to do shit that you see in Germany and France. Literally. You have single-payer healthcare system in Germany and France, and we would all say that, yeah. Literally, Chuck Todd called Bernie Sanders supporters digital brown shirts. No lie. No bullshit. They're digital brown shirts because they're mean on the internet. Never mind the fact, again, they literally, on election night, they said, yeah, no, that's what makes it so fucking stupid. Exactly. They called somebody who had family members that died in the fucking Holocaust. His followers are digital brown shirts. Yeah. Let's see. What else? And like, I want to get back to this video, and maybe I will do a later video on that, but it's like, is it, like, how do you have an ego like this? Count it. Oh, shit. Yep, take. How do you have the ego like this? Him, the other guy, like, you, like, reality doesn't agree with you. But let's continue.
Enjoy doing that, and I don't think that just because I leave for like, you know, a couple months to play League, that all of a sudden like conspiracy theory runs rampant. I mean, I guess if I have to do politics for full time to like keep these people at bay, I can do it. But then I'm basically just.
Oh no, Destiny, you can go play League. I think we can survive the fact that people disagree on the internet. You don't have to be our savior. It'd be great to have a savior, but you don't have to be our savior. And look, I'm going to tell you a secret. People don't think Bernie's a savior too. They just think that he's going to help get others what other people already have. But you don't see that, dog. All you see is, damn, I didn't know this was here. Oh, shit. All you see is obsession with sheep. I ran into him. Okay, cool. But yeah, no. It's the fact that this fucking, like, it's really about his ego. But let's continue.
Relegating myself to like fact checking lefties is so boring. Like, you don't understand. It doesn't require even any reading at this point. Like, we can already combat like lefty fucking academics, right?
No. Okay, cool. He can combat he can combat lefty academics. Great. So he's gonna talk to Professor Richard Wolff? No, he's not. He's not going to actually talk to a Marxist professor who actually has data and information that talks about how we should be on a more socialist, path when it comes to the U.S., which kind of let the secret out. The U.S. is already partly socialized. We just need to decide where that line is. But let's continue. Exactly. Yeah, he feels like he's a big brain. He feels like he's a galaxy brain. But let's continue.
Right? Who don't have any like econ knowledge at all. That guy, Michael Albert guy that authored participatory economics, doesn't even know the stock market works. Right? Like these people are so boring to deal with. That it's
No. I can tell you how the stock market works. Really, I can. And I haven't taken an economic class in my life. The stock market works is this. People put money on a company in hopes that the stock price would always go up. That's how the stock market works. When people say that the stock market is just like a casino, it kind of is an analogy that it is. The fact is, the stock market is a game that people play to bet on the value of a specific company. And they bet that value would always go up. That's how it works. And then people use tricks and different things to try to play the market. That's how it works.
It's like, fuck me. I'd rather at least, like, the Nazi stuff is interesting because I get to read about World War II. I get to read about cultural Bolshevism and Germany and Hitler. Like, at least I get to research more about that. But, like, fucking, like, lefties are always, like, one wiki article away from understanding that they know nothing about what they're talking about. Like, it's just so boring. I don't know. I don't like to do that full time.
Because it takes fucking effort. You just want to sit back and hold over your head, over somebody's head, like, haha, I know better than you. That's where this is coming down to. It's not that, oh, great, I get to learn some other things. I get to learn how, Keynesian economics would be. Well, that's hard. I literally have the book. Here. Literally have this book. It is a fucking difficult book to read. But I'm taking the time to fucking learn it because that shit right there, the measure of what happened in 2008, is setting up to happen again. But motherfuckers like Destiny who thinks that, well, I have Twitch, I'm going to be safe. Well, I'm owning this. I own my own rights to this. I'm going to be safe. That's the reason why he doesn't want to look into it, because he feels that he's all right and all the other plebes, well, if they're screwed, oh well for them.
Truthiorfiction.com. Did Pete Buttigieg's campaign pay $42,500? Pay and donate are two different things.
Wow, for somebody who likes to say, don't get caught up on the semantics, he's getting caught up on the semantics. And, I know that I may have paid a cop to do his job after he pulled me over and not give me a ticket, but that's still a fucking bribe. No, they don't. They don't, Vegeta. They don't.
They paid for a service. That's different than donating. Joe Biden did not donate. His campaign did not donate $1,200. They paid for text messaging services.
I have a Sprint phone. I text messages doesn't cost that much. They don't. Let's continue.
Pay and donate the connotation is vastly different. I'm not a lefty, but there are plenty of respectable lefty academics. What Destiny just said is very dumb. None of them are on fucking YouTube or Twitter, though. Like, I'm sure that there are some people that study, like, lefty shit in, like, academia or whatever, but they're not the people that are on YouTube. And I doubt that those people that would come from academia would make the same stupid fucking claims that the people on fucking YouTube and Twitter make.
May I introduce you to Professor Richard Wolff? Like, seriously. Like, there are... Hell, look, later on, what time is it, 6? I'm going to actually probably, in this video, I'm going to probably do Mark Blythe. Literally, he's a Keynesian economics professor. He's on YouTube. That's how I found him. Like, come on, guy. We know what this shit is. You're fucking scared to actually address issues with people that may actually know the same amount or more than you. It's not about you learning, it's about your ego.
Or any of these mainstream lefty figures or whatever. Like, there's a difference between, like, oh, like, I'm a guy that studies Marx for history or whatever, I have this understanding of blah, 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 versus some dumb fuck like Kyle Kulinski or whatever. These are two vastly different things.
Wait. He's a dumb fuck now. Who, again, somebody who actually brings up political stats, a lot more political stats than what you actually bring up on your show's Destiny. Like, literally. I mean, like, I have disagreements with him. I really do. But he actually does fact checking and he actually does political history and political theories. But he's a dumbass.
Responded and said, about exactly what? The story there is relatively boring. So Mike is gonna walk back that he ever said that it was conspiratorial. That's good. All these fucking cowards.
Wait. First is boring, and then you know better, and now they're cowards. I don't get it. Like, is it boring? Are they cowards? Like, for real? Well, Vegeta, I'm going to actually say this. The reason why they don't want to apply different solutions to the problem is because it may mean that the status quo isn't good, and it works for them, but it doesn't work for everybody. So fuck you, pay me. That's what a lot of these guys' issues are. That's what you see a lot of the people that's in the establishment. Fuck you, pay me. It may not work for you, but it works for me. So fuck you, pay me. Let's continue.
Bomber guy and Sean and Jen did it too. They walked the fuck.
Want peace of mind when buying a new car? Gerald cares. Introducing the Gerald exclusive lifetime warranty.
Skip ads.
Back on everything they said. These are the same people that attacked PewDiePie for.
First of all, I have to look at that, but a lot of times when you say people walk back, what you mean is they do the same shit that you're doing right now. The same exact shit where they bring a specifically strong case against something that you said, and when they talk to you, they try to be civil. It's what Peter Kaufman did. It's the main reason why you got pissed off at fucking American Johnson, because he wasn't walking the shit back. He actually had evidence because he lives in those countries, the type of countries that you have a fucking issue with. But because of reasons, you got pissed off because he wasn't backing down. It's all about your ego, dog. But let's continue.
For fucking shouting out 30 channels, and then one of them happens to be like some fucking like covert ops fucking Nazi crypto channel. No, Mike's typing up a long response. Probably going to be about how he doesn't have a strong opinion about anything that happened in Iowa, and it was probably blah, 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 blah. I don't think I've trafficked in any conspiracies other than to point out that the media narrative being formed around an obviously disrupted result.
Wait, what's so fucking funny about that? The results, which we normally had around 9 p.m. in any other fucking presidential race. It was coming in, and all of a sudden, they stopped. Not only that, but you saw it where Buttigieg was complaining about a poll. The Des Moines Register poll that would have came out that Friday. Because Buttigieg complained about it. They pulled the poll. Literally, he threw a fit. He pulled, without sounding bad, but he pulled a Karen. I want to speak to your manager. Like, literally, he pulled the I want to speak to your manager. And they pulled the poll reflective of the standings in Iowa. Not only that, they fucking released 62% of the data on polls, on the polling places where, you know, other people were strong, and purposely waited to release the places where Bernie Sanders was actually strong. And they waited until the final parts where, and they gave Buttigieg the opportunity to say, well, I won. Without any fucking evidence. But there was no debacle in Iowa because reasons.
How frustrating. I mean, I guess it's smart, right? Like, they would adopt the same strategies as all the fucking, like, conservatard people or whatever. Why would we talk about that? Pete is ashamed of being gay. He's completely ignoring everything I said about the last clip. Does anybody have the clip where Mike screamed at me that he would debate me on a clip? Anybody have that? That's interesting, like how meek he is now in conversation. This is not the alpha Mike that was screaming and pounding his chest a couple weeks ago on stream. It's interesting. You care more about electing the right candidate to beat Trump or the candidate with the best policies? The right candidate to beat Trump is definitely like the most important thing. The right policies don't matter if you can't enact them, right?
And this is the shit that, like, this is what it's all about with these neoliberal motherfuckers. They are so worried with beating Trump. They want to return back to normal. But normal didn't work for people. That's the reason why Trump got elected, because normal didn't work for people. You had people who traditionally voted Democratic. But because somebody says, well, everything is okay and everything is working for me, so everything must work for you. And if you believe that everything is not, if you believe that it has to be working for everybody, and then what happened? The people didn't come out of Michigan. People didn't come out in Wisconsin. All because of this fucking hubris of, well, it's working for me, so it must be working for everybody. It's the same type of hubris that Destiny is showing right now. And then, if you don't vote for Trump, if you vote for Trump, you must be a sexist and racist. Versus saying, why do people vote that way? What makes people feel that they need to vote for these people? It's the same people that, Mike Bloomberg could actually fix it. Mike Bloomberg is not going to fix shit. He's just as racist. He's just as idiotic as Trump. Anytime you go on tape and say, well, the reason why we send cops to minority neighborhoods is because 95% of the people are victims or perpetrators look the same way. That's fucking racist, dog. It's racist. Or, worse yet, because they got rid of redlining, banks had to give money to poor minorities. And they couldn't actually they couldn't pay their loans.
That being said, from the polling that I've seen, it seems like most of the big candidates right now have a roughly equal chances of beating Trump.
That's bullshit. Bernie Sanders has 10 points on Trump. Everybody else has... Yes, if you want to look at the margin of errors. Who is it? Joe Biden has 7. Nobody else has anything. Elizabeth Warren has like 4, and Buttigieg loses to Trump. He out and out loses to Trump.
Like, I think Biden and Sanders and Warren, I know that Biden and Sanders had pretty equal shots at beating Trump, with I think Biden leading Sanders in some swing states, but not by much, by like a couple points.
Here's the truth of Destiny, is he will not debate me on issues. Every time I debated him, like the last 2 times I debated him or talked to him, he brought up Nicole, and he wanted to know more about our relationship. Like, so it's just like creepy. It feels parasocial. It feels like
yeah, like what Vegeta was saying. Yeah, exactly, Vegeta. A lot of people just they were like, fuck the establishment, fuck Hillary Clinton. Yes, there were people that were okay with his racism. There are people that were okay with his racism because they were fucking hurting, and they say, well, these are the reasons why we're hurting. But I can tell you this. A lot of these people, they're not fucking evil. They're fucking scared. A lot of people are fucking scared. And this is a point that, a lot of people actually miss. When you look into what happened with the drug crisis in the African Americans and the minority communities, the Mexicans, or whatever in the 80s, the Nixon administration was going after people for political power. They wanted to go after the hippies and they wanted to go after the blacks. They said it. It was part of the Southern strategy. The problem when you introduce that, where people are making money off of people suffering, is after so long, the people who are suffering, they can't pay anymore. And then it moves up the fucking ladder. It is a reason why you see. This is just from February the 16th. And it is a reason why you see all of these people dealing with depression. You see with anxiety. You see people that are actually fucking worried about so much shit. Is because the fucking bottom has fallen out and people don't know how far they're gonna fucking fall. I was talking to Bubbles today. A lot of people are so caught up in despair, but it's hitting everybody now. And that's why a lot of people voted for Trump. They didn't care about his racist policies. They didn't think he was going to actually get them done. They just thought, well, he's saying what I feel, that people are being screwed over. The problem is, he said he was going to fix it, and he didn't. But this whole vote blue on no matter who is the reason why you see so many people trying to go for Mike Bloomberg, who is just as racist, just as bigoted, and just as incompetent when it comes to helping out people as Trump. It's almost as if they're cut from the same cloth, or if they're fucking friends. Oh, wait, yes, they are. This shit is fucking ridiculous. But let's let him finish.
Invasive, and it's just like, hey, dude, why don't you not worry about us?
So I think I brought up his relationship with Bad Bunny because he was literally defending Bad Bunny's like 400 uses of the word fag on Discord, which was pretty insane. But
what does that have to do with the arguments that he was making? Just like a fucking reactionary. But let's continue.
Okay. Is Buttigieg pulled to lose to Trump? I haven't seen Pete's numbers against Trump. I don't know.
Oh, it's almost if you have the Google's machine that you can actually look up to see if he took money or he donated versus paid for service.
Mike has gone silent on Discord. He's no longer responding to me after I linked him the Pete is ashamed of being gay clip. Who cares what Bad Bunny said in private? Isn't it your sense? Oh, I don't give a fuck. I don't care.
So why the fuck do you bring it up? It sounds like I'm being pedantic. I know. It sounds like I'm being petty. But I'm just following his suit. But let's continue.
I don't think I ever did care. I don't care what most people say in terms of like joking stuff. I don't.
Vegeta, I'm gonna say this. Not only are you sure that that Sanders would have won the election, Trump is sure that Sanders would have won the election. He's fucking freaking out about the fact that, oh shit, Sanders may actually win the fucking election. Oh shit, I'm worried. He doesn't want to run against Sanders. He doesn't. He is fucking worried. Because he thinks Sanders has a message that'll appeal to people. And you know what? He's right. But the thing about it is, the fucked up part about it is, you run Sanders, you go to Kentucky. Alright, so, this video's over. We're gonna leave this video. And this is just like, I guess it's gonna be me ranting for a few minutes. The thing about Sanders is, you actually see time after time after time where you it's genuine moments. You saw Joe Biden talking about challenging one of his supporters to a push-up contest. Literally, Bernie Sanders a guy got up and had questions. And Sanders, and he said, I'm going broke. I'm about to, start a shotgun. And Sanders was like, wait, why? Because of health insurance. And he was like, no, give me your information after we finish, and we're going to fucking help you. And you know what he did? He did. He helped the living daylights out of this man. Did he bring it up in a further write-up? No. The guy came back and was like, dude, you helped me. There was literally, what was it the other day? He was in a rally in Texas. Now, Sanders is like 77. I give you that. Fuck, he's old. He was talking in the heat. Somebody fucking passed out. He was like, no, wait, EMT, come help this person. Not only that, here, take my fucking water. Make sure that this person is okay. We're going to take a break. But he's unreasonable and he's some ideologue. Like, for real, dog? Like, for real. These motherfuckers are scared. Destiny included. They're scared because, well, we're going to give people power? What the fuck are we doing this? No. People, we are their betters and they don't deserve the power. They wouldn't know what to do with it. It's like that scene at the end of God of War 3 where Kratos, after all that he goes through, he gets up and Athena's, and he kills himself to release the hope into the world. And Athena's like, no, they won't know what to do with it. Well, motherfuckers, we will know what to do with that fucking power. But let's continue.
I think you should do it, but I've never been on like a big hype cancel train for any shit. I wasn't even on PewDiePie when he fucking dropped his N-word shit on. I thought it was stupid as fuck, but I don't know if that makes you racist or if you whatever. People always ascribe to me a lot of stances that I don't have. It's very interesting to me.
It's funny that you don't have them when clearly, when it's about being a contrarian, of course you don't have them then. But when it's about your edification of making sure that you're better than somebody, yeah, of course I got those stances.
But didn't you say that this person should be canceled because they said that word or whatever? No, not really. I personally usually don't care that much about this stuff. I just think it's funny that some people selectively care about it a lot. Like, depending on who gets hit by it, basically. So, for instance, Hassan flipping shit over what I say in private and then going on to support Cumtown over and over and over and over and over again is kind of interesting to me. It makes me wonder a little bit what the motivation is for supporting any particular.
Like, he actually gets, like, super hurt that somebody doesn't 100% believe in him. Like, Hassan was, like, his bosom buddy. But, like, he gets called out on shit. Like, he literally won't debate Vosh. They just now, like, agreed to a debate. And that's gonna be an interesting debate. Because there's hatred between Vosh and Destiny. Well, Vosh doesn't really hate him. He thinks he's pathetic, but you know, Destiny really hates Vosh. But that's gonna be fun. I'm gonna watch that shit. But let's go to another video. Oh fuck the Scorpions. Yeah, let's go here.
It was just like a family that spent too much.
All right.
And we are back. Well,
all right, so this is where I try to sound smart. Yeah, I try to sound smart. Remember I holded up this book, Austerity, The History of a Dangerous Idea? This is the guy who actually came up with that whole idea, Mark Blythe. And you can actually check out his podcast that he does on the Watson Institute, which is actually pretty fun. Yes, he makes a joke, and he sounds like Michael Myers from Shrek. Yeah. I don't know if he's going to make that joke today, but like that's one of his biggest things. But I've had some other videos in the past where I go over his work and some of the things that he did. Check him out. Look it up. It's actually one of the videos where surprisingly did pretty good. But for me, pretty good is anything more than 10 views. But let's hear it.
Welcome to the third episode of our podcast. I'm Jorge Tamames, and this time we have a special end of the summer edition episode coming from the other side of the Atlantic, where Aidan Reagan just interviewed Mark Blythe. Mark Blythe is the, bear with me because this is a mouthful, William R. Rhodes Professor of International Economics at Brown University's Watson Institute for International and Public Affairs. He has researched for a long time now the relationship between economic ideas and the policies they produce in the real world. He has made a series of doomsday but ultimately accurate predictions, such as Brexit and the election of Donald Trump, and published several books. Some of them are Great Transformations, The Future of the Euro, co-edited with Matthias Matix, and Austerity, The History of a Dangerous Idea, which was selected among the Financial Times Best Books of 2013. In the prologue of that book, Mark makes the claim that academics should ultimately act as the bullshit police, calling out bad ideas for what they are when they take place in public debate.
Literally, that's part of the shit that he says. He literally is that economics professor that calls out bullshit. But I digress.
As we'll see throughout the course of this conversation, however, bad economic ideas have a habit of persisting even when they've been disproven or proven to be wrong or disastrous. Throughout the course of this conversation, Aidan and Mark talk about the politics of central banks and public debt, climate change, populism, the left, the radical right, the interplay between economic ideas and class politics, Donald Trump, Jeremy Corbyn, Matteo Salvini, how nobody cares about inflation, the aftermath of the 2008 crisis, and the problems it has brought for the left, as well as the future of the European Union.
Damn, that's a lot to have a conversation with in 30 minutes. Unfortunately, the way Mark Blythe is, yeah, it can be done. But let's continue.
So, Mark, you're internationally known for somebody who's an expert in economic ideas and the power of economic ideas over policy making. How did you get into this? What's the background to your interest in economic ideas?
So the usual answer I give to this one is I left Great Britain in 1991 because of a woman, Mrs. Thatcher.
Yeah, he has a lot of dad jokes. Okay. Never said he was funny. Just said he was corny and he was interesting as a professor.
And that's kind of the answer. So let's go back to, I think it was 1981. And there was a British program which I think is still going on called Panorama. And I would watch Panorama when I was 13 because I was a geek. And they had this amazing show where it was kind of like a game show between two economists. And this is the first time I'd ever come across economists or anything like this. So one of them was an old bloke who's in his 50s, who's got a tweed jacket and a daft haircut. And he was from, I think, the Manchester University or someplace like this. And he was the Keynesian. And they talked about his model, which had 6,000 equations and tried to model the household sector and the financial sector, blah, blah, blah. And I had no idea what they were talking about. And then the other side was this bloke wearing a very nice suit who was about 30 years old, who just looked like one of Thatcher's children. And he was from London Business School. And he had a monetarist model, which had about 6 equations. And I was like, what's going on here? And they ran data through it, and basically, you know, this one would say this and this. And what was amazing about the monetarist one was no matter what happened, the answer was tax cuts, and the result was nirvana.
And this is one of the not Morgan Freeman, but Freeman's little school of, hey, tax cuts solve everything. Which they fucking don't. And no. Everything would be great if we cut taxes on the fucking rich. Which it's not. And this is the importance of always fighting. Because the Keynesians let up, which was already a compromised position. And look, we had roughshods all over it.
And I was 13 and I thought to myself, that's bullshit. that's total bullshit. But I could see immediately how powerful this was. So right there and then was the moment when I started to pay attention to economics, not as a way of explaining the world, but as a thing in the world which in and of itself is politically powerful. So that's really the moment it came from. In Great Transformations, in the preface, I also talk about a moment with my dad where, you know, we're driving down the road. I wasn't raised by my father, so, you know, times in the car with him are few and far between, so they stick in the memory. And we're talking about the upcoming 83 election. And this guy, from every possible conception, he was a butcher in the city slaughterhouse, right? I mean, this guy was as working class as you get. He should have been a Labour man, but he never was. He was the classic sort of angel in marble, as the British political science literature had it, the working class conservative. And I said, why wouldn't you, vote for this? He says, well, they're worried about unemployment, and that's something to worry about. There's a lot of people around here who don't have jobs. But what they'll do is they'll borrow all this money and they'll spend it, and people will think that they're rich. And then they'll spend all that money, but it won't really change anything, and all there will be is inflation, and you're back to square one, and then the government's got less money to do the stuff it needs to do. And, we've been through this before. That's what the 70s was, and, you just can't do that anymore.
So he actually explains what happened in the 70s. Inflation. The problem is we're no longer in the 70s, and what happened in the 70s was an actual issue where we had a lot of closed markets. And so what ended up happening is in different countries, almost simultaneously across the world, you had workers always asking for more pay, and then prices would actually rise in order to compensate the workers for more pay. And because the workers wanted more pay, then what ends up happening is the prices will rise. And so they needed to have more pay to buy more stuff. And you had out of control inflation as a one-time thing. Now, it wasn't really as bad as a lot of people actually said it, but it started hurting people's profits. And in a nationalized market, when a closed national system, not nationalist, but a national system, there's only so much that the top of your market can actually get before it hits critical mass. That's why you see places like Venezuela, where they're mostly a closed national market, where prices start going out of control. But let's continue.
So right there is the long-run neutrality of money thesis, the supply-side dominance thesis, the monetary dominance thesis, all coming out of the mouth of a butcher. And I thought, wow.
So you can see the attraction, right, of tax cuts, more money in the pocket. It's attractive to all classes, right, to a certain extent, anybody who's working. But why then do bad ideas persist? Because you've written a lot about this, because particularly in the aftermath of the financial crisis, why do bad ideas persist? Bad economic ideas persist?
Because the definition I give in that book, Austerity, The History of a Dangerous Idea, is the subtitle is there for a reason. They're a dangerous idea because they're immune to empirical refutation. It doesn't matter how many times you show that recessions cause damage, that they lower long-run growth trajectories, that the hysteresis effect in labour markets, i.e. you lose skills and you never get your lifetime earnings, has massive effects across generations. It still pops up that, no, really, the problem is just like a family that spent too much and we all need to tighten our belts, etc., etc. And the reason behind that is simple class politics. Those who are the creditor classes don't want to lose, and the debtors want to have their debts relieved. And that's the basic standoff, a creditor-debtor standoff that happens anytime there's a financial crisis. So, there's a class politics behind it, but what to me is interesting is how that gets played out in the realm of ideas, and why certain ideas such as the state's just like a family, spoiler alert, it's not. Expansionary austerity, the idea that if we cut budgets now, then what will happen is we'll have a bad recession, true, but it'll be short because that'll show we're serious about long-run taxes. And because I'll have less taxes to pay in the future, I'll run out to IKEA now, buy a couch and cure the recession. That's basically what the argument is.
So, if it was one thing that I would say that was actually beneficial about the original George Bush tax cuts is he gave people $400, $600 to go spend money right away. And what happened was people spent money. Now, it helped a system that was already crashing stay a little bit more fluid for a longer period of time. But in the end, nobody says they cutting taxes, so let me go spend a shit ton of money. That's not what happens. Now, another thing, and like one other thing that people always seem to forget, if people like me who are workers don't have any, free money to spend, businesses aren't spending any money, then that causes a recession that dries up money to be spent. The only people that can actually spend money with impunity is the fucking government. But, we need to cut taxes and spending of governments. But funny, that never affects the military budget because of reasons.
With lots of math. And these arguments become very powerful, and they caused an enormous amount of damage in Europe in the period of the financial crisis. So yeah, they don't die. John Quiggin calls them zombie ideas, and I think it's another nice way of putting it.
So the ideas, as you say, are connected to a kind of class politics. But I suppose if one thinks, it's easy to look back now and observe the extent to which the state intervened to save the financial system and the trillions that were effectively committed to bailing out the private sector. But it is remarkable to think that very quickly that shifted towards the household, that suddenly the state was to blame. Is there something to be said that the left in particular doesn't have the language or a discourse to talk positively about the role of government and the state in the economy anymore?
Oh yeah, that's a huge issue. I mean, one way of thinking about the past 30 years, or that entire period from when I watched Panorama as a kid right until now, has been the systematic delegitimation of the state right across the OECD. And the way this plays out in macro is, supply side dominance and monetary dominance. So, fiscal policy, which used to run the show, you can't be trusted with it, and it has leads and lags. That used to be monetary policy, now it's fiscal policy. You don't really know if it's going to work, blah, 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 or ultimately it's a waste because of people's expectations and they discount the effects, etc. So you shouldn't do anything. And then,
so, let's examine that shit. Literally, he is saying that over the last 40 years, since Ronald Reagan, there's been this delegitimization of the state, and the state can't do anything. And, we need to let business owners do it, or worse yet, we need to let one particular person fix it. This is the same reason why you have such an hostility against someone like Bernie Sanders, who says, let's do Medicare for all, the same system that we're doing for our vets, or the same system we're doing for our elderly. Well, the state can't do it. We've been doing it. And private business hasn't been doing it well at all. It is no reason why you should have medical bankruptcies. No reason. It is no reason why people who work 40 fucking hours a week, sometimes more, should be struggling for, making sure that they can actually have enough food to fucking eat. But no, you have these people like Destiny, you have these people like all of these other neoliberals that say, well, the state can't do it. The policy that Bernie has about affordable housing, the state can't do that. Literally, you actually saw the debate that Destiny had with Ben Burgess. And it's like he refused to acknowledge that it was talking about Bernie's housing plan, where if he was talking about how Bernie has a housing plan that would actually facilitate more building of homes for everyone. And Destiny says, well, investors are not going to build the homes if they can't spend the money. And Ben Burgess would actually say, finish the sentence, who can build the homes? Well, investors won't do it. Government can. If investors can't do anything, government can actually fucking help. And nobody's advocating for government to come around and say, well, you have to live in this fucking hobbit home. No. It is literally picking up the slack that fucking corporations can't or are not willing to do. But let's continue.
Then also you're incompetent, so you can't do anything. I know, oh, the state, it's for losers. There's makers and there's takers, and the state's just filled with takers. And all of these different sort of little sort of micro discourses which have become concatenated and layered over the past 30 years. And then if you think about it, particularly in the cases of the United States, and also to a certain extent the United Kingdom, you know, it used to be the case that if you worked in the Central Civil Service in Whitehall, that was an extraordinarily respected thing to do, and now you're just another lazy government bureaucrat, right? You know, you're not out there in the private sector, you're in the protected sector.
Wow, it's become a bad thing, and he just said it. It's become a bad thing that you work for the government. Oh joy! Like, would you want your healthcare run like the DMV? Long lines and waiting. At least with the fucking DMV, they're guaranteed to fucking see me no matter what. I just pay a small nominal fee to get a fucking license versus dealing with, you know, I don't know, a healthcare company that says, no, you got to wait 30 days in order to make sure that a payment is processed. And then we're just going to keep you in limbo. And while we're keeping you in limbo, the people that actually facilitate the service is going to be chasing you down because they're concerned that you may not pay them or they may not get paid. Fuck out of here.
You're trading off security against income rather than actually providing public goods, doing incredibly important enforcement and regulation that actually makes markets work better for everyone. So there's been an enormous turnaround in the way that we talk about the state, which has been massively consequential. That has been a project of the right, but it was embraced by the left almost as an electoral strategy. And you saw that most clearly with the Gerhard Schroeder, Tony Blair period, whereby the whole state became enabling, poverty disappeared, it became social exclusion, etc. And those languages, again, although non-economic, have deep economic roots and economic consequences.
But do you think that there's a deep crisis in our existing economic paradigms, particularly in relation to the dominant monetary paradigm, given that the central bank has intervened so much and committed so much public resources to bailing out the private sector, that suddenly we're in a world whereby, well, what's going to happen next?
So I'm having a conversation with a Swiss economic historian about this stuff, and we're going to do a conference.
Please let that be, fuck. What is that dude's called? The guy who spoke up in Davos. Brucker Reckman. I got a video on my channel.
We're doing it with a conference called the bystander hypothesis. And it's because there's all this work now on long-term interest rates. And those interest rates basically start... We have a record from about 1315, and they're about 12% real. And they just go down and down and down and down. And if you look at it over the short term, the volatility is huge. You know, wars, crises, plagues, famine, right? But if you look at the long-run linear trend, it's straight down. Now, there's a whole branch of economic history about the revolution in military affairs, the fiscal capacity of the state. Charles Tilly brought this into sociology, all this good stuff. And that's how we think about, you know, why bond markets exist, because they needed to fight wars, so they needed to give creditors better protection, blah, blah, blah. But there's a whole bunch of countries that didn't do that. And their rates went down as well. Now, there's an analog to this for central banks. So central banks appear on the scene as independent central banks in the 1980s, primarily spreading in the 1990s. Juliet Johnson's book is, of course, the Bible on this stuff. And the essential claim is inflation is always and everywhere a present danger, and we need to be the police. We're out there to get it. And then it looks like interest rates are down and volatility is down in general and inflation is down. So Bernanke writes The Great Moderation, and then the whole world blows up. But despite the whole world blowing up, and despite 20% equivalent of the global money supply being chucked into the global money supply, so basically 17 to 20 trillion dollars extra being shoved in direct intervention, inflation continues to go down, and as a consequence, interest rates continue their long decline.
So, and like, okay, I get it. A lot of this shit is intermediate level shit. So, what happened during the financial crisis and the recovery is that everybody was so scared about inflation actually coming around, and like no one wanted to repeat what happened in the 70s, even though we have evidence that what happened in the 70s was an anomaly, not the norm. That's what he said. He said that inflation over time has gone completely down. It's going in the toilet. But no one wants to repeat that shit. And so, specifically, they've been going, people who have had control of monetary policies have been trying to fight inflation everywhere. When we had the financial crisis, not just here in the U.S., but across the globe, banks start printing fucking money. And everybody was worried about inflation. Everybody was worried about inflation. And yet, there is none. There is no inflation anywhere. No inflation anywhere. But yet and still, everybody is so worried about it. But let's continue.
So my big question is this. Are central banks bystanders? So it's way beyond, are we in a world which their capacities aren't there now? Maybe they never really did that much. They were kind of, if you will, performing their role, but the world was disinflating because inflations are actually incredibly unusual unless you have state collapse and hyperinflation and warfare. So given most people most of the time in the developed world are not in that state, you had this unusual inflation in the 1970s for reasons we can get into. And then once that was bust in the 1980s through monetary action, through Volcker and others jacking up interest rates, down and down and down and down and down they went. And that's where we are now. So you build these central banks with these capacities and independence and credibility, and I can't help but wonder if they're just bystanders.
Or just sitting at the top of the pyramid, in the sense of, so you talk about central banks being independent from government, and you talk about kind of the consumer price inflation, as you say, is going down, but asset price inflation is not. And the interventions of central banks in the aftermath of the crisis have driven up the price of assets. So in that sense, they have a role to play, but it begs the question, to what extent are central banks independent from the financial market and the banks that they regulate?
Absolutely. And so a really important point that we need to clarify is an inflation is an increase in the general level of all prices. When you use the word inflation, that's what it means. There is no such thing as asset price inflation.
So just breaking that down for a little bit. So inflation, when you actually talk about it, yes, it actually is an overall increase of prices like we had in the 70s where everything was going up. But the only thing that a lot of people are actually going up is fucking housing, property. Not just generally like a lot of, everyday prices. For example, I'm playing on a fucking 52-inch screen TV. 10 years ago, this would have been $2,000. Now it's like $500. So inflation is going nowhere. Nowhere. But rental properties are going up. The inflation of that is going up. The inflation that you see with people are, when it comes to land and homes and shit, that's going up. Stock prices are going up. But just normal inflation anywhere, not going anywhere. But let's continue.
Asset prices go up because there's an enormous inequality skew and people are buying assets because they expect a higher income stream of returns from the purchase of those assets in the future as opposed to the present. That's not an inflation. Now, I'm not being a pedant about this, right? I think it's really important to make that distinction because it's absolutely the case that in order to stabilize inflation or inflationary expectations, if you want to go down that route, what the central banks have been doing is quantitative easing and asset purchases and all that sort of stuff, and that's led to all sorts of distortions and perhaps some inequality, etc., etc. But they're not causing an inflation. Right, and we use that language too carelessly. The problem that we have structurally is disinflation. if not deflation, particularly in Europe. It may be the case that assets classes, stocks, shares, and housing in particular are going through the roof, but that's because the world's phenomenally unequal. And in a world in which you get negative real rates by sticking your money in the bank, people want positive rates. What do? They buy houses, right?
So this actually addresses one other thing. You actually see, and in some cases, there have been plans. In Germany, there is a negative interest rate that is happening that they're trying to actually do because people are saving so much money that they're trying to get them to spend money. And Trump actually proposed negative interest rates because it fosters people to spend money because that's keeping off a fucking recession. But let's continue.
So it's a very different thing. And the central banks are part of that, but I see them as, rather than producing that problem, they might have amplified in one or two ways. But again, this is the long-run structural story. If interest rates are going through the floor and you get nothing sticking it in the Sparkasse and you're German savers and you think you've got a God-given right to 4% real just for showing up, you better find something else to make your returns. And that's what's been going on.
So you've written a bit about, the shift in macroeconomic regimes whereby the Keynesian commitment to full employment, the monetarist commitment to price stability, and you've just clearly outlined that, this commitment is problematic now. So where next? What's the next phase? What's the next paradigm shift here?
So to me, the two things. The only thing that matters, and I'm being perfectly serious when I say this, is climate change. Right? Everything else, given what we're seeing in terms of increasing feedback effects and sort of things that were meant to happen 90 years from now, like Anchorage, Alaska being 94 degrees and all that sort of fun stuff, and every summer is the hottest summer that we have, etc. You're getting to the point that you can talk about within, not just within our lifetimes, within a decade, the destabilization of the glaciers of Europe, which then basically screws up all French and German agriculture. I mean, these are pretty serious stuff.
So that's actually a very interesting point. The fact that he's actually talking about how fucking climate change not only will affect our kids later on down the line, they're happening now. I was just watching a Netflix show where Ragnarok, where that's part of it. We have measured effects that we see that this is happening, and we're going to start seeing, and we already have started seeing, climate refugees. There's a few tens of thousands, but eventually there will be millions.
So the next frontier, and it's interesting, let's go back to central banks. We've got politicians that are either in denial because they're paid off, or don't want to think about it because it's too hard given a short-term electoral calculus, who are being embarrassed into action by basically things such as Greta Thunberg or alternatively the Amazon fires or public opinion. They don't really know what to do or how to get out of this problem, so they choose to just ignore it. And it's kind of interesting that the central banks have been quite vocal about this. Now, we can think of them as regulating financial markets, enabling financial...
You're right, Wajida. There are people that not only have their switched around and says, well, it's not happening. There are people that turned around, well, since it's happening, it's nothing we can do about it. Literally, there are people that are like that right now. Well, we know it's happening, then there's nothing we can do about it. Fuck out of here.
Financial markets are being captured by financial markets. I think of this as the regulation and enabling mode. What they're basically signaling is the problem of stranded assets. Carbon assets in particular. And here's what I mean by stranded assets, right? So I have a house in South Florida, for example. And South Florida is lovely, it's got beaches, all that sort of stuff. But you know that the beaches are going to go, and there's going to be floods. And once the flood happens 3 times, you're out. And then there's no buyer for those houses. Doesn't matter if your house has never been flooded. Nobody's buying, right? So think about carbon assets. Think about we shoot through 1.5%. Governments finally pull on the brakes. Say, that's it. The oil majors. Turns out they were the ones spreading all this crap about climate change and disinformation. No different from the tobacco companies. They're the ones that need to pay for green tech, blah, blah, blah. What happens if you're a bourse that's heavy carbon? What happens if your portfolio for your retirement has got Exxon in it? Because everybody does, right? So I think the financial markets recognize this. And just as in a sense the state acted, to use that great Marxist term, as the ideal collective capitalist during a financial crisis to save everyone's assets, the central banks are now doing that in a forward-looking way, saying, hey, we need to take this climate stuff seriously, because if not, it's going to destroy the values of everything.
So this is actually mirroring some of the shit that has been brought up this year in Davos. You can actually find videos where people are actually saying, like, we know the party is almost over. Let's try to capitalize on it. Now, are they still trying to capitalize it in a way where they would keep their power? Yes. Fucking of course, yes. But they're still recognizing that we're getting fucked. Slowly. Passionately. But let's continue.
So to me, it's kind of fascinating that the only bit of the political system, because they are political actors, that really are paying attention is actually the central banks.
So central banks could intervene to change what though, exactly?
Well, that's the thing. It's not clear exactly what they can do. I mean, they can raise the alarm and so on and so forth. What you really need is concerted action by institutional investors, and there's been some of that has been going on. There was a large conference in London of institutional investors basically saying that they're not going to invest in certain carbon risk assets, etc. last year to the tune of several $100 billion. So there is some movement on that. The central banks, you know, what do? They talk, they signal. That's what they do. Actually, I'll tell you a funny list. You ever hear about the paper from New Zealand about inflation expectations?
No.
So I'll try and dig this out and send it to you. So they've been doing inflation targeting in New Zealand longer than anyone else, right? So the whole point of this is the claim that there's sort of two ways of thinking about inflation. One is a simple quantitative monetary effect, right, which relies on money not being generated by banks per se as credit, but as central bank money qua base reserves and multiplication in a banking system, whatever, right? And then all that sort of stuff. So basically inflation is caused by too much money. Now there's another one that says...
Wow, if that's a easy way to actually describe what inflation is actually caused by, too much money.
There's no expectations. People expect prices to go up and that becomes embedded and all that sort of stuff, right? So taking the expectation stuff seriously, which is what most of modern macro takes seriously, and I take expectations seriously, it relies upon ordinary members of the public giving a shit. And actually paying attention to this and understanding what the signal is and seeking out the signal. And we assume that happens, but do we have any evidence? Well, this paper in New Zealand is brilliant. So they basically did massive Google searches to find out if anyone in New Zealand actually ever went to the central bank website and tried to look at inflation numbers, whatever. And I think the number was you were 10,000 times more likely to look at any video sent to you from YouTube than you were to look at a central bank signal.
Wow.
So, you know, again, what exactly are they doing and who's listening?
Yeah. So just to bring it back in the political science dimension for a moment, you have written that the policy response to the international financial crises gave rise to the conditions that led to Donald Trump Brexit.
Global Trumpism.
Yeah, he's actually the person that coined the global Trumpism. But let's continue.
As I called it, yes.
You might elaborate on that and for our listeners.
Well, I think everybody's kind of got to that position now. I was just sort of a little bit ahead of the curve on this one. That, you know, if you run a world that's massively skewed in terms of an inequality skew for 30 years, you fill in the gap with credit. You have a massive financial crisis. You suddenly then discover that what banks talk about when they talk about assets is actually everybody else's liabilities. So the banks get bailed, which basically means that your liabilities are kept whole, but your job just went bang. Your income hasn't grown in some cases, depending on where you are in the income distribution, for 30 years. Although there's no inflation, prices of the big stuff that really matters, healthcare, particularly in the United States, education, goods, etc., are going through the roof. And you're being told by the chattering classes on the coasts who have got all the real estate and all the wealth that everything's fine. And we're, in the case of America, celebrating Obama's legacy. And it turned out lots of people didn't think that legacy was all it was cracked up to be. Or alternatively, in the United Kingdom, as we know now that the brunt of austerity fell on local and regional governments in the United Kingdom.
So let's actually just address this. And this was what I was talking about earlier. there were people who voted for Trump because at least he was saying it's not all okay. Literally, Hillary Clinton ran on the campaign of everything is great and it's all going to work. This is one of the reasons why the whole neoliberal thing about Joe Biden is going to come and rescue us and return shit back to normality. That's the reason why it's not working. Because people know that 10 years ago, you can actually get a 2-bedroom apartment for $700. Now I have my rent is over $1,000 for the same shit. Excuse me. That I used to get for $750. Because yes, prices for electronics or different things have fucking going down. It was a story about the PS4. A PS5 is going to actually be a lot less than what people thought. But the shit like going to school, healthcare, those prices are going through the fucking roof. So, of course people are going to be mad. The vote for Trump was a brick through the fucking establishment. That's what the vote for Trump was. It was people throwing a brick through the fucking establishment. But let's continue.
Preston in the north of England suffered a 30% cut in real terms, and that wasn't that unusual in terms of the swinging cuts. Meanwhile, metropolitan London was pretty much unscathed. So the provinces were burned to save the assets of the rich. And then along come Brexit, whereby the entire British ruling class link arms and tell the people who have just been massively hurt by those same people that everything's great, we should stay in the EU. I mean, do we need to have more complex explanations in this? It's been 30 years in the making.
So it's basically austerity. It's the austerity response, and there's a lot of research published on that now in the UK. That effectively,
yeah, the Fetzer paper and a whole bunch of stuff, absolutely. But I tend to think of that as, not this. Eric Lonergan and I've done some stuff on this. It wasn't caused by the financial crisis, but it was all just waiting for the financial crisis to cause it. Right? And I'm not being clever when I say that. What I mean is, it was all there. All the ingredients of the cake were there, and the settlement that kept it going, the continual expansion of credit to people who could barely make the payments, that was just had to go.
So, and this is another key thing, and I know he talks about this a lot, but because wages couldn't go up, people actually lived on credit. Credit for in things that you wouldn't think were just credit. For instance, you can buy vehicles used to be able to buy vehicles without taking a loan out. And I'm not talking about some shitty vehicle that you get around tax time. You can buy homes that you didn't have to take this big, huge loan out. That's living on credit. When he said that your assets, like your house, your car, they're your assets. They're the bank's liability. And the bank's in your liability, the payments you owe, is the bank's assets. That's what he means. And for motherfuckers to say, oh, everything is working fine, and not see that fucking people are struggling. This is the reason why Trump won. And this is the reason why Sanders is actually motherfucking making a path to the nomination of presidency. Shit, this is the reason why the Yang Gang exists. Because Yang says, we're going to give you money. People are hurting. But yet and still, you get these elites to say, no, everything is fine. Everything is working out great. But let's continue.
And eventually when it did, I mean, in a sense, there should have been a bigger reset of the system. But the central bank came in and bailed the system. So in a sense, we gave a massive liquidity injection to a system that had just had a liquidity heart attack. And we put it back together again. But now you're 10 years out and the politics has changed. And the politics have changed massively. I mean, if you think about, you go to the G7 now, right? You're looking at, was Salvini actually there?
I don't.
Do they actually? No, he doesn't get in the 7. He'd be in the G10, right? So imagine if you're a G10, right? Who would you have? Well, you probably have, Trump. You got Johnson. You might have Salvini, right? I mean, the political forces have been radically rearranged.
Given that the state committed so much public resources to bailing out the private sector, those same public resources could be committed to healthcare, education, public infrastructure, childcare, climate action. And we know from public opinion that, broadly speaking, people are favourable towards those social democratic policies. So the conditions should have been ripe for the left to have a response to this, but they didn't, and it's the left that are suffering. What explains that?
Well, one of the things you can think about is in many cases the putative left, whether they were left or not, was actually in charge when it all went down. So Britain is a classic example of this. And what did they do? They bailed the banks because they were said, too big to fail, etc., be catastrophe, whether it is or not is an open question. But it was the left that in many cases, did this. And that invited the right-wing critique of the Tea Party and others, which was, this isn't capitalism. And in that case, they're completely right. I mean, you were socializing the risk and you were meting out punishment instead of reward. And
this is like one of the things that you see Cenk Uygur says. A lot of times these companies privatize the gains, privatize the profits, but socialize the loss, socialize the risk. And I'm not right-wing, but I recognize the fact that populism is a fucking thing. And this is, again, one of the reasons why the establishment hates Bernie. Because he critiques them from the fucking left. But let's continue. This is almost over. And the stream is almost over, guys.
And, you can understand why then there's a loss of left credibility with this. If you will, the sort of the Blairite Schroeder project, if you will, the Obama project, the Clinton project, was essentially to disassociate yourself from working class organizations and try and find the nice people in the financial sector. And it turned out when you do that and everything goes bad, you then bail out your nice friends in the financial sector and you suffer, quite rightly, a massive loss of credibility. That credibility takes time to be rebuilt. I mean, we see this with what happened with the British Labour Party with Corbyn. There was a marvellous bit when I was in Britain when they were doing the leadership election. And we'll go back and remember how this happened. Corbyn was put on as a sop to the left by the people who ran the party. And they had 4 super mainstream, totally Blairite candidates. I think 2 women and two men. And there was one of the London radio stations had a whole bunch of them on, including Corbyn. And they asked them about what they would do with Miliband. He's lost the election, and now you're going to have a leader. Do you have him back in government? And they all gave these convoluted answers and blah, 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 and wouldn't answer the question. And Corbyn pipes up and says, oh, he did a great job when he was environment spokesman. I'm going to have him back in a heartbeat. And the person running the radio show went, that's why he's going to win. Because people are just fed up with the type of answers you people give. And there's a huge amount of information in that little exchange. And, whatever you think of the Corbyn project, I mean, he quadrupled Labour Party membership. And
so, yes, with Corbyn, he lost the Brexit election. Yeah, he did. But motherfucker built back up the fucking left in Britain. Now, a lot of the establishment, again, was so gun-ho for him. But they left. He built it up so it can actually become so much better than what it was before. And I would actually be looking forward to actually seeing how that actually plays out in the end. Because it'd be the same thing as Bernie actually not being able to win the presidency this time. But he's left an indelic legacy where so many people are following in his footsteps. It may actually be, you may see the next time that in London, you may see the legacy of Corbyn, even though he's not the leader of the party. Well, and we see what happened in 2016 with with Bernie Sanders when he came out and actually was, hey, this is wrong, the indictment of the system, that you see, though he lost the election, but in 2018, you see so many progressives actually take hold. And now that's paid for dividends with his current presidential run. But let's continue.
Although the wheels seem to have come off the wagon a bit recently, being wrong-footed by Boris mainly. But any other social democratic leader that would quadruple the membership would be hailed as a hero, as opposed to some kind of, terrorist who confuses Hamas and hummus, which is where we are just now. So I think that the left, by associating itself very much with the neoliberal project, suffered an enormous credibility deficit, and also has an impoverishment of ideas, because when you hang around with those folks and you're backing those folks up, you accept their version of the world, and when it turns out it goes pants and you don't have any alternative, then your credibility deficit gets worse. So I don't think it's that people have this weird thing going on where they have these preferences but they're unable to articulate them. It really is a case that the political parties and other organizations that supposedly represent those preferences actually don't. And a lot of what the populist reaction is essentially coming to terms with that. And it is worth remembering that even though it's on the back foot at the moment, there is a left populism as well as a right populism.
Exactly.
It's just that we spend all our time on the right one because it's a bit more ugly and telegenic and newsworthy. But, Spain's not to be dismissed. Portugal's not to be dismissed. Half of Italy's not to be dismissed. Corbyn maybe should be dismissed at this point. We don't know. We'll see. But it's more than just the right, and it's important to remember that.
Yeah. So we're here for a...
So, and here's the fun part about it. If you watch any of the if you watch any politics, you actually see that play out here in the U.S. Here, the Hill, Cristobal and Sagar. I don't want to mispronounce his last name. So it's Crystal and Sagar. Their new book, The New Populism. You see that a lot of these people are like, fuck the establishment. We may have disagreements, but we can agree on one thing. Fuck the establishment. And that's fucking key of what's going on. And if people in the establishment don't want to acknowledge that there is a populist tide running, well, Home Depot has some great deals on fucking pitchforks. But let's continue.
A workshop on kind of comparative political economy, international political economy after the financial crises, looking at the next stage, if you like, in terms of research program. In terms of the social science of all of this, where do you think we should be going?
So my motivation for helping to put this thing together is summed up in the paper that I did with Mark Schwartz, which basically asked the following question. It's quite plausible that these days, if you look around the world, you can see that countries under conditions of complex globalization have specialized. And they've had to. You have to find a way in the world. And countries that were traditionally exporters have become super exporters. And countries that were traditionally consumption-based have turbocharged that through debt and housing and all this sort of stuff. So we talk about different types of growth models. So here's the question. How does that come about? Is it simply a diffusion process? Is it more likely that it's diffusion plus some kind of hierarchical process? There's big countries pushing around small countries, right? Is there a project to this? Is there politics to this? Interesting thing that Herman put in the paper, Mark put in the paper. Similar thing is when you think about exporters, it's obvious to point out, well, there has to be somebody doing the importing. What's less obvious is what happens to the surplus. You need something to bank that with. So if you didn't have the dollar, you couldn't have any of this. So for me, the question is less, what bolted down paradigm do I believe in as the next thing, but how do we take a much more sort of multi-scalar view of this that allows us to think about how growth regimes or growth models are not just embedded in particular international arrangements, but how the entire thing acts as an ecosystem.
So that's actually a really good point. Going back to what we were saying earlier, what I was saying earlier about the 70s, about how being a nationalized economies where there was a built-in cap. The world has been running on that system. Instead of taking a different approach, people have been taking the national system and actually grafting that upon the world. And just as he said that it doesn't work when you try to say the government is like a family, that approach doesn't affect everyone. The global approach with the national system with the global approach doesn't affect the same kind of way either. You can't just upscale it. You have to understand. And yes, there are some inconsistencies with imports, exports, but no one has actually sat down and said, well, it doesn't really work this way. Let's fine tune it. No, it's how do I make my money right now? It's my money and I need it now. Call J.G. Wentworth. I'm sorry.
So just to shout out for one of the papers, the one that we had on basically growth models in the environment, right, by Jonas Nam. This is a great little paper, and I encourage people to look at the full version when it's finally written up. But the short version of it basically says something really interesting. If you've specialized as an exporter, you can do green tech because you have the capability to build this stuff. But if you're a consumption-oriented place, even if you've got great politics, you kind of can't do it. Like, you physically can't do it. And also the coalitions to politically put that together aren't there because your growth model structured in a different way. And that's the type of thing that I think is really fascinating. There you have a global problem refracting through these different growth models, but actually telling us something about the world that we really didn't know. And ultimately, that is always the project of the social sciences. Tell me something I don't know.
And one thing that's fascinating to me is that on the one hand, we talk about nation states, national growth models, etc. But then you look more closely at the economic geography of all of this, and actually we're talking about cities, metropolitan areas, and this is the kind of link into the global supply chains.
Totally.
And, you know, that obviously feeds into the politics that we're observing at the moment within countries. So whilst on the one hand, cities, regions are tapping into the broader international economy, they still operate within nationally bounded democratic spaces.
I mean, Ireland's a...
So, yeah, and see, this is what I'm saying. It's like this other system is actually in place, and maybe I'm double talking because I'm tired, but you can't work the global system like you would a national economy. You can actually take a global system as if it's made up of national economies, and then you can actually try to figure it out from this. But it's one of those things. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It's an emergent issue, not just saying, well, we have A plus B and of course it's going to equal C. No, it's different than that. But let's continue.
Fascinating case of this, but by virtue of its scale. So, I mean, what's the population? 4.5 million?
Well, if you include the North of Ireland, 5, but say the Republic of Ireland, 4.5
right,
million.
4.5 million, right. So how many is Dublin?
1.5.
So Greater Dublin, including the wealthy bits, 2?
Yeah.
Right, so half the country is almost a metropole. And that metropole, as your work has demonstrated, isn't just based on corporation tax anymore, right? This is real investment by real companies with, like, you know, real people with real skills doing real stuff. Platform economy, all this sort of stuff, right? So that's an entire, like, if you will, new growth model that has emerged because of a bunch of historical and technological accidents and changes that happened elsewhere. Right? In 2016, I did a piece in European Journal of Economics where I tried to coin a term which doesn't seem to have caught on, possibly because it has bad connotations. But I refer to basically the area from Finland down through Sweden into Germany to Slovenia and then out to Romania as the greater German export complex, which it is. Well, you can think about that as a thing, and then think about basically the Chinese manufacturing areas, the coastal manufacturing areas. And then you can think basically about the American heartland through Texas, the bits that are still manufacturing. And when you consider that manufacturing is still 11% of the American economy, let's call it 10, right? That means it's a 2 trillion sector. That means that sector is half of the size of half of the German GDP. So not to be sniffed at. You could basically take those as your analytic units and tell a really interesting story about the global economy. So it's how do we choose our units?
Yeah.
What's the costs and benefits of going one way rather than the other? I think that's where we're going to be going for the next few years.
Yeah. Final question, Mark.
Okay. So, final question, and then we're going to call this stream.
So this podcast series is part of a series we're putting together on the new political economy of Europe at the Jean Monnet Centre at University College Dublin. Looking more concretely just at the European political economy. You've published a lot on this, you've on austerity, the policy response and so forth. Where do you see things panning out in the next decade?
So I think that the problematic part of the world for the next 10 years is Europe. And I don't say this with any joy in my heart. I think it's a sort of a tragedy. And a very simple way to think about it is it's the old problem of irresistible forces and immovable objects. Then you've basically got an institutional order that says the supply side does everything. Structural reform is the only thing you can do. We went through a massive recession and now we all need to tighten. Everybody needs to become an exporter. It just doesn't add up. Now, imagine an incredibly benign world environment of high growth. You might get away with that. Well, at least at the levels that we see now. But if you read China's 2025, they're coming after the Mittelstand. So that export surplus is going to be reduced. And if that's the only bit that's causing growth, you've got a problem. And then you got on the other side of here the possibility of Trump winning again. And if he does, it's quite clear that the tariff war that he's having with China is going to be extended to Europe. Now, throw in a few other things. There's no such thing as a European digital platform. Sorry, everyone, Skype is owned by Microsoft, right? So the world is being pulled between these two increasingly hostile blocks, and Europe's caught in the middle with bad governance, weak governance, and, in my opinion, a massively wrong macro settlement that's trying to run a surplus against the rest of the world, banking somebody else's financial assets while doing so. I don't see that one going well. So even if the United States and China come to a modus vivendi, it's not clear that modus vivendi is going to help Europe.
Now, I know it's an overly simple way of putting it, but in that case, more or less European integration?
Well, this is it. I mean, the answer is simple, and it's gouvernement économique, right? Whatever Macron was hawking is what should be done. And then the problem is 9, vielleicht 9, right? So we're not going to do any of that, and we'll do the lowest common denominator thing. And if you can't even really complete your banking union, so that you don't have to do what you did last time when the banks went bust. If you can't agree on a substantial common insurance policy for unemployment so that people feel that they really have skin in the game, right? As a sort of, yes, European money insures me and insures my future as opposed to national, then you're just playing at the margins, and they're very much playing at the margins. I had a conversation with someone from the E.
So let me just make sure I understand what he's actually coming at right now. The faith in, like, the EU, European Union, has built up so much faith in the fucking euro that it's also almost to a detriment. And you have two economic powers, France and Germany, who are, and of course, it's always France and Germany. If you actually ever watch the Extra History, you'll know that it started because of the Holy Roman Empire and the division of the crown and all the other good shit. But you have two European powers that are just looking to control the market in the financial war. And yet and still, this whole split is probably one of the reasons why you actually see so much, because for a while Germany was actually controlling a lot of things, but it's only so long that Merkel can actually stay in power to rein in or influence the things that's happening in Deutsche Bank. Because let's be honest, Deutsche Bank is holding the purse for a lot of people. But let's continue.
ESM on the sidelines of a conference recently, and they got very agitated that I was quite down about Europe, because all they could say was, but the spreads are down, but the spreads are down, but the spreads are down. It's like, well, if that's the only thing you look at, then it's really hard to understand why Salvini is so popular. There's more going on than just the spreads.
Yeah. Okay, Mark, thank you very much for this podcast. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I'm surprised you didn't ask me why I was an Everton fan.
Why are you an Everton fan?
Later.
All right, so we done a lot of videos today. I want to thank everybody who's watched tonight. last day of my day before vacation, my last day before I got to go back to work from vacation. This is gonna be fucking soul sucking. If you want to motherfucking help me where I can actually help more with supporting myself with doing streams, you can actually check the link out in the chat. And of course, you can actually check out my art. So, and by the way, Jill, I do draw women with clothes on. They're just not the fun drawing. Alright. So, check out my links below. I'm going to actually cut this shit up. If you watch today or if you want to watch at a later time, I'm going to cut this shit up where I can actually put it in each distinctive videos. I want to thank everybody who's watched and enjoy the rest of your evening. Peace.